Welcome to Spitbucket. This week, Mark from Riedel. He's come to explain to us how good glassware makes such a difference to wine. And there's absolutely no doubt about that, but we'll go through it. Well, as you can see, we've got the two glasses in front of us, and it's fairly obvious which is which, if you like. This is the swig standard, as it were. And this is one of your new glasses.
It's a relatively new line, so the line is Vitis. Vitis has this little V into the bottom. It's what we call, getting into the technical side of glass making, it's a pulled stem glass. So we blow the bowl and we pull the stem by machine out of one piece of glass down to the base here. And in fact, so there is a join here, which you can't see. It's moulded in by heat and literally fused into the glass. Yes, so it's a two-piece produced glass. The only other way to produce a glass in one piece is literally to blow it into a mould and then crack it out of the mould, which means you're going to end up with lines all down the side of the glass. Alternatively, when you do this, you'll find always, and you can see it on this glass here, there's a big rim right up around the stem here, and there's a press mark, whereas you won't find this in a glass like this. So it's a very seamless glass, a lot of elegance, a lot of beauty to it, very modern, contemporary in style, following the basic principles of what we know of different shapes. So we use this always as a basis for design, and then modern technologies developed a glass like this.
We've got McLaren Vale Chardonnay. Now, before you bag McLaren Vale Chardonnay, the very first Gitana actually had a bit of McLaren Vale Chardonnay in it. Unfortunately, didn't have the second and third and fourth and fifth, didn't. Never mind. This should be quite a richly flavoured one. So let's put a touch in there. More, less?
No, this is for tasting. This is fine.
Okay, now which one we look at first?
All right, so I would suggest you have a look at the Chardonnay glass. So we give it a good swirl, and just to let you know, the reason why you swirl wine in the glass, this is not the nervous reflex of an alcoholic. This is purely to allow wine to breathe. Inside the chamber of the glass is where the aromas get captured, and you'll notice always with all wine glasses these days, modern day wine glasses always have this sort of roughy egg shape to it.
Yep.
Which enable the aromas to get trapped inside the glass here. The wine's probably a touch cool, which you can see on the glass here, but still.
You're getting some sort of peach characters and things coming out of it.
Yeah, look, and certainly it's interesting because the fruit does stand up here, and you get the stone fruit characters, and then you have this sort of almost this vanilla nutty complexity coming through. So there is a nice harmony of the aromas.
It's actually very pleasant.
Chardonnay is one of the great varieties in a consumer sense that's probably one of the most misunderstood. And I think this country here has a bit of a stigma with Chardonnay where, as we all know, everyone's been running and looking for Sauvignon Blanc, and Chardonnay sales have been decreasing. The reality is here, our argument to this is that most people don't even understand what Chardonnay is. It's one of the most great textural wines when we talk about white wines. And here, when we think about the palate structure, this is exactly what we're looking for.
Beautifully structured. Good Chardonnay is beautifully structured. It has that incredible length and intensity that just persists and persists.
Exactly. For us, we would argue, unless you've actually ever had Chardonnay out of a glass like this, you don't even really know what Chardonnay is. And that's the sad part. It's good in some ways for people who love Chardonnay because there's plenty of it around, but it's bad because there's probably a lack of understanding as to what it is. And I think when you see the wine out of this glass, this will be a very good example. Typical example of how you would find Chardonnay.
To me, the immediate thing that I get is more oak.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have you're not getting that same peach stone fruit character coming through. You're getting the oak.
So it becomes structurally here a lot more single dimensional on the nose.
It's absolutely apparent as soon as you stick your nose in it, it couldn't be clearer.
And when you think about the palate structure,
broader, more up front, doesn't have that length or intensity.
And it's interesting because that very last bit on the palate actually is a touch heat. It becomes very short on the palate and a lot drier. Again, emphasising the oak in the wine at $1,300 or $1,400 a barrel. That's not a bad thing sometimes, but the fact that it emphasises it at the sacrifice of fruit is the issue.
And it's not what the winemaker's intending. Now, we're moving on.
Shiraz.
Shiraz.
Yes.
Some of you who've been watching the videos will have noticed that we actually had a look at this particular Shiraz in another video, and it was a fantastic wine. The Star Lane from Beechworth, 2005.
So this is obviously clearly our Shiraz glass. We worked with the team actually at Penfolds a lot to come up with the shape of this glass. So we did quite extensive trials and researches. All of our shapes of glasses, in fact, were developed in conjunction with the wine companies. So
you used Angelo Gaia for some from memory.
Yes,
And,
yes, absolutely. This glass heavily was with the Penfolds team, but not exclusively. So we're certainly working with a lot of other companies globally as well. The challenge always is there's so many different styles of Shiraz, of course, when you look around the world, and how do we classify this glass as best for which wine? So for us, this is always done by trial and error.
Let's have a look. You immediately get the aromas, don't you? I mean,
beautiful.
Out they pop.
Beautiful lifted aromas. Lovely earthy tones here. That olive.
Yeah.
Really
Dark
intense.
berries, cloves, bit of leather. Just a really interesting wine.
Lovely tactile feel in the mouth.
Absolutely, it's seamless and it flows and flows and flows.
Well, it's quite interesting as well. I mean, obviously, yes, it's not an old wine, but not a young wine either. And but that lovely length of fruit on the palate is so dominant in the wine.
And the tannins are so fine.
Absolutely.
Let's have a look in the. Still a good wine.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're not going to destroy the wine. Obviously, you're just not going to get as much out of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's interesting for me, actually, if you sort of go looking for this, it is a little bit more obvious here. There's a bit of heat on the nose, and it probably just doesn't give the intensity of the spice into the wine.
It hasn't got quite the same beautiful floral elegance. Still a nice, and it's more blocky. Lovely wine in both glasses, but it sits up a bit better in this one. It really does. What sort of price are we to a recommended retail?
So these come, we box all our glasses generally in pairs. A pair of these is $150, so they're $75 a glass. We have other ranges, so our Venom series, which is pretty much our bread and butter. It's the mainstream line, which is also varietal, and you could have a glass for $50. Or, as you mentioned before, we've got O series, and O series is exactly the bowl without the stem.
Yep.
It's half the glass, so it's half the price, and it's $25 a glass. So literally, for $25, you can have a varietal glass.
Okay, now Mark, you've brought something really special to show us today. I think this is fantastic.
Yes.
Bring on the snake.
All right, so I wanted to, of course, bring a decanter along to show you, to talk about decanting, and I thought there's no better piece to bring along than Eve the snake. Eve was conceptualised by Maximilian, another Maximilian Riedel design, and Eve is a decanter which we've since learnt is a decanter which is perfect for younger wines because it really allows them to breathe and to aerate, which is exactly the role of a decanter.
We have, in fact, a Hunter Valley Cabernet, doesn't everyone? The 2009 Peake House of Bricks Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah, and you'll see why in a minute why I wouldn't recommend it for older wines. It's quite a rough decanter in that regard, but decanters, generally speaking, you would use a decanter for all types of wine. But just actually to mention this, typically people think that decanting is purely for old wines, when in fact it's actually more the reverse.
And white wines as well, I find.
Absolutely.
I mean, people just ignore decanting white wines, and you can get so much more if you take the time.
So let me show you what you do here. The easiest way is just you grab the decanter like so, and with such a young wine, what you want to do, you want to see a lot of bubbles, you want to get a lot of air in there. There's going to be no sediment inside the wine, being 2009. So literally upend it and straight in. And
Wacko.
And as I said, what you're looking to see here really is a lot of bubbles, a lot of air in the decanter. Using Eve takes a little bit of practice, so I'm going to stay standing for this because there's really two ways you can do it, just to understand this, and you'll hear the...
Oh, you can hear it, blub, 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 blub. Oh!
So,
It sounds like you're drained.
exactly. So this puts in here, and if you just have a look here, this puts in here just a beautiful measure of wine.
Yep.
So in fact, if I was to pour this for you...
How clever.
There you go.
How clever.
That
A little bit up the tail as well.
That would be a portion of wine, 150 mils.
Isn't that clever? Oh, I'm so impressed.
Now, as you get a little bit more skilled with such a decanter, you even don't need to rotate it like this. You can just
Do the...
a twist of the
whisk, blah,
hand.
blah, 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 blah.
But you'll see all of the wine obviously flowing back in. Again, it's just creating more bubbles. So hence why I said for an older wine, it's going to be a little bit challenging.
It'll knock it around, yeah.
Yeah. When you over pour it, so if you put too much wine in here, the function of the decanter works very differently. So you need to be a little bit more careful on that.
It does because they've still got plenty of space in
there. Yeah, but I mean, it's this. We would classify this really more as a single bottle decanter.
I think that is so clever. Not the cheapest item on the market.
No, it's not. It's obviously handmade. It's a handmade product coming out of our head factory in Kufstein, and it's an $800 decanter.
But I mean, if you've got a lazy 800 lying around, I can't think of anything better than to spend it on that.
Absolutely.
That is just fabulous.
It really adds to the element of theatre, and that's what decanting is.
Yeah.
Decanting is a theatrical experience, wine is a theatrical experience, and that's exactly what the decanter's for.
Thank you so much for coming on Spitbucket.
Thanks for having me.
And it's been wonderful. Now, if you've got any queries, questions, if you're a believer, if you're a non-believer, let us know. Any thoughts? Do you find different glasses give you different characters? Give us and remember, we spit even from the good glasses, so you don't have to. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's great.